So, how do you turn your everyday stories into client getting pieces of content? It's a big question out there. Well, in today's episode of the Rebel Signals broadcast, I'm going to tell you how to do it, and specifically the two magic transitional points that make up this post framework, that are specifically the 2 points that are going to help you to sell in your post with those stories. Now, we're going to be looking at this here. Now, I literally refined and came up with this framework this morning. It's something that I think about a lot, that I'm always trying to make better. I'm trying to think of what is the easiest, most natural way that I can explain storytelling in content, because it's so simple, but it can get complicated. You can make it more complicated and get more detailed into the copy side, but I really want to give you just the simplest way for you to follow. That's that's natural, that lets you just take these stories that you see in everyday life and just put them onto paper and put them on a way that's going to create action. It's going to get your people doing something. Doesn't mean it has to be buying, but just getting them to feel something, understanding what you do, how you can help, and then getting them reaching out to you, having a conversation with you. So we're going to go over that. But first here, I want to share something that I read and experienced this morning that I think is going to help you to be more resilient through any tough times, or just to help give you perspective when you're feeling anxious, when life seems to be coming down on you. Just a daily practice, a daily way to throw you into a meditation that puts you into the right state of mind to remember who you are. And that's what this passage is. It says, "The body is just the universe which has come to you, which is nearer to you." So I think a lot of people, when they hear this idea that you are everything and you are the universe, they're actually thinking about it in the backwards way. Because if you took your arm, if your arm were cut off and it's laying on the ground, is that arm you? Is that you down there? If you picked apart every piece of your body and threw each piece away one by one, where would you be? Where are you? So that's what you are. That's what it's meant by you are everything, is that you are not this body, and you're not the physical things, and you're not the thoughts that are happening, and you're not your mind. You are what is beyond this mind. So I think just sitting in that, feeling that, and sitting in that for a moment, feeling what that means to be this nothingness and this everythingness, knowing that's the truth of who you are. It's going to help when it as a daily practice to think about that and feel that. So when things get hectic, when you have those thoughts of doom, when something goes wrong in your business or your relationships, and it seems just like all's going to hell, you can just remember, really, that it's not that the truth of life. What we know is that the formless of life isn't those things, and that everything will be okay. Okay. Hope that was cool. So let's go to the post again. So looking at this diagram here. Okay, we have the story, and in our story, we're going to have some drama or the problem. So that's the thing. Our story doesn't always have to be about a specific problem point that you solve with your audience. That's a very common practice. It's something that I do too, and clients do. It's something you always want to do. You think, what are those problems that your customer, your client is facing? And you want to address those problems in your content. But it doesn't have to be a problem. Like, it can just simply be the story, as I'm going to show you the example. But there's going to be some drama in the story. There's going to be maybe a problem is going to come up in it, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, then there's the micro solution, the macro solution, and the call to action. 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. Now, let's look at a post here in particular so I can break this down and you can see what I mean. Now, this is a post that I wrote for a client when we were doing a book launch. Now, it starts with the story. Now, my client, he's a great storyteller. He's got all these different stories, and it just goes to show, like, when you have great stories, posts write themselves. All you really need is the story and the lesson behind the story, and you're already 90% of the way there. That's why it's so important to have an ideas bank, to have a story bank, to do a brainstorm session. Here's some homework for you. Do a brainstorm session and just think back on your times. Think about 5 different clients you've worked with in the past and pull out a single story from each one of those clients that you've worked with of what the situation was, what the story was. And I'm talking about specifically, not, specific, like on this day, I was talking to this person and this specific thing happened. This specific problem happened with this person. And here's what I did to solve this problem. Okay, get specific on the stories. The more granular you are, the more visual you can be with your story, the better it is. So many times when I work with clients or see stories, it's this broad, broad story, and that makes it generic and it makes it uninteresting, but you want to get specific, just like we're doing here. Okay, so this story. My boss was so pissed at me until the flood of emails came in. So that's a great hook right there. You can steal this hook. Okay, something happened until the something happened. ... This was going on until this happened. Perfect headline. So back in 2008, now story 2, think who, what, where, when, why. Who, what, where, when, why. You want to think about always. That's what we learned back in grade school, right? It applies to your stories, applies to your content. Back in 2008, the government passed the HITECH Act. One benefit was if primary care providers and hospitals purchased electronic records keeping software, they would get partial funding for it. Here's the situation. You have all these hospitals needed consultants to help them select the right software. So a regional extension director for the state of Arkansas was set up, and I was appointed executive director. No big deal. Okay, we're adding some authority here. Authority, letting him know that this guy is the boss. My client's the boss. He knows what he's doing. So we're making sure to add in those elements. We needed to help 40 providers. We needed to help 40 providers left to recruit into the program and help buy software to hit our number. But as we approached the final week of our time frame, we were short. So I needed to make a big move and make it fast. One clinic in particular was pushing back on buying. So on my own, meaning without approval, I cut the clinic a deal, made a sale. My boss went irate. That is until all of the emails came pouring in. Saying, way to go on hitting your number. You did such a great job. Very distinguished board member. So what's happening here, this is the story. So what we're selling here ultimately is helping to do better in sales. And we were selling software, getting a better deal. So that's why this story is happening in the first place, because it's going to be about my client making a better deal. Now, continuing here. This problem was happening. That's the drama. Okay, there's this problem. Boss was pissed. He went on his own. And then what happens? That is until the emails came in saying, way to go on hitting your number. Did such a great job. It's even a distinguished member that got to buy. All of that anger quickly turned to pats on the back. Yet I knew the whole time I made the right move. So much about healthcare software. And then, okay, now here's where the micro solution comes in. The micro solution is the lesson of the story. And the macro solution is your program or your book or your group or whatever that is. So we have the story, we have the micro solution, which is the specific lesson of the story, which is linked to the macro solution, which is your big product. Okay? Story, micro solution, which is the lesson of that story. Why you told that story in the first place? Why are you telling that story? Here, he's telling the story because so much about healthcare software buying is about timing. That's the lesson. In a single line, so much about buying is about timing. And now we go to the macro solution is to buy the book. After 30 years, I've developed an approach to know when to hold on a deal, when to go all in. I give you some key timing tips. And timing, that's for the micro solution in my book to be released in 4 days. Okay, so are you feeling that? You don't have to worry about anything else. You just got to worry about you think about all the different stories that you have, and then what are the micro lessons? Now, those micro solutions, Those make up the different ways that you can help your client. If you were like a productivity coach, that could have to do with organization. That's why organization is so important. That's why taking breaks is so important. That's why having a morning routine is so important. That's why getting enough rest is so important. So those are all micro solutions that would come after you tell a story. You have a story, micro solution, story, different micro solution, story, different micro solution. And all of those stories and micro solutions are tied into the macro solution, which is your program, your book, your intensive, your lead magnet. So your macro solution is the big thing that you're promoting at the time. Could be for a month, could be the workshop for the week, whatever it is, that's the macro. The micro are the little micro solutions, which is the lesson that is linked to your greater story. Okay? That's making sense. Let me know. Happy to share some more examples. Yeah. So this is something we do in my content in an afternoon session, by the way, is taking out all of your stories, coming up with those micro solutions that are linked to the stories, and then linking that to your macro solution, to your problem or to your program or whatever that is, and then mapping out 30 days of content so that you know the right stories to link to the right micro solutions that link to your macro solution. Okay, content in an afternoon session. If you want to hear more about that, let me know. Otherwise, hope you have a great day. That's it. That's it for now. See you tomorrow.